Hello there and welcome to my new video, and this time we're going to be doing our first request. I was asked to do a video on cloning workflow, which yes, in many ways is overdue. So let me start by showing you the ideal workflow, the fantasy workflow if you will. And I apologize in advance that yes, I did use AI to generate this diagram, so the reverse primer is not where it's supposed to be. But let's focus on the important bits. Okay, so the fantasy workflow consists of several stages, all of which work. So first, this is imagining that your template is a plasmid, which is also a fantasy. All too often you have to go voyaging in genomic DNA or cDNA or other stuff. But hey, let's continue with our fantasy, why not? So our primers bind to the plasmid, we generate a delicious PCR product that is the only band that you see, perfect. You then lovingly cut it with restriction enzymes to get those sticky ends a popping. You then have a nice cut plasmid, which you ligate into. No harm, no foul. Boop. You transform E. coli. Suddenly you've got colonies on a plate exactly where they should be, which is great. You mini prep the DNA, obviously, because you don't know yet that your fantasy is coming true. But of course, in this fantasy, it is. And then next thing you know, boop, you have a delicious sequencing chroma that says cloning has succeeded. Yay! Look at this, drink it in, because I hate to rain on your parade. This is almost never how it happens. So let me focus in on places where the wheels can come off, of which there are many, and give you a little insight on how to deal with it. So yes, in your magical fantasy universe, this is what your PCR gel will look like. Oh my goodness, all of these products are the only guy at the party. That, yes, wonderful single bands and no weirdness down there, no ghosts. However, this is more, well, even this is pretty close to fantasy territory. That here we have, uninvited little weirdos, like, what on earth are you? Who invited you? Huh? What? And, let's make a freaky doublet. Why not? Isoforms? Maybe. And, but even that is, I could very much deal with that. There will be lanes where there's nothing. This is a factor that happens. And I want to focus in on this because in a cloning workflow, they don't emphasize it enough, or at least I don't think they do, is that when you do your PCR, regardless of template, you run it on a gel, yes, and that serves two purposes. First, to check, did you manage to get the PCR? Seems blindingly obvious, and it is, but also a gel, when you've run your whole reaction into it, it allows you to gel extract. This is important. Let's insert this into the workflow, that after your fantabulous gel, which does not look like that, gel extraction, what it does is, after all, ensures that any of these little weirdos that you did not invite to the party don't come in and interfere with the reaction. Because, and this is the first time I'm mentioning it, but trust me, it won't be the last, these little weirdos are kinetically favorable. Just like off-target effects, these are two words that should be a blessing and a curse. Because after all, if there's a small weirdo that was somehow generated by your primers, it will also be very, very friendly to your restriction enzymes and generate a smaller, cuter product, which would happily sneak on into your PCR and spoil you. So that is a concern. So that is why gel extraction is your friend. I mean, even if you think, hey, what's he talking about? I know my PCR gels and they look pretty good. It's like 99.5% is my guy. That 0.5% is enough to put you in the ground. If you go and just PCR cleanup, which yes, there's a PCR cleanup kit, which I use after a restriction digest of a gel extracted insert. That's the point. PCR cleanup kit, sure, it gets rid of anything that isn't DNA. That's the important part. Okay, anyway, moving forward, let's switch forward past our ligation. I'm not going to linger on that, but there's a whole video in the future on that little chestnut. Let's talk about our ideal plates. And brief aside, in a classical old-school ligation, because I don't care for Gibson, you will do a vector-only control. Particularly the first time you prep a vector, you will cut it with the enzyme or enzymes and dephosphorylate. cannot emphasize that enough. You want to guarantee against religation because you don't want your vector to just close right on up and not let your guy in. So, and you would also do, of course, vector plus insert, because duh, that's what we're here for. So you would expect and hope and dream to see this. Your vector is the finest dephosphorylated vector you ever did see, and there ain't no religation, no siree bob. Vector plus insert. This is what you hope to see, and okay, I actually once or twice, here and there you'll see this. But, once you trust the vector, you actually can skip this step. I mean, I know I sound like a bad influence, but yes, you can absolutely, once you know the vector stock is good, you can take it on spec that your vector plus insert will generate colonies and your vector only won't. Sure, if things go awry, then it means you don't have that control to say, hey, did you forget the enzyme that day? But moving forward, yeah, this is a more realistic scenario where, yes, your vector, you did a really good job. Not great, but really good. So your vector may throw a few red herrings your way, but so long as the ratio is your friend, I mean, you only have, well, okay, I asked the AI to generate 10 colonies, which are, the spacing is also a fantasy. There'll be a bunch, and then there's a few outliers. Anyway, point is, 10 to 50, perfect. Very survivable. I like those odds. Pick a few, and yeah, you may get a vector, but you'll also get your guy. Love, love, love. But it doesn't end there when it comes to chaos, because all too often, hello, you got this situation. And it's uh-oh for several reasons, because after all, from this, you can't tell where the wheels came off. Did you accidentally use a 50-degree water bath instead of 42? Did you forget heat shock entirely? Did you use, instead of sock, you used LB can? It basically, you can't learn much from this. So you have to backtrack, you have to beef up, and okay, if you simultaneously manage to solve your problems, add a safety net. Have a transformation control. Yes, you're burning more competent cells, yes, but at the same time, it's very, very reassuring, particularly when you're troubleshooting. So yes, here, once again, your regular vector only plus vector plus insert, but yeah, this confirms, after all, yes, you can transform. Yes, your cells are healthy. Yes, your plates are good. You didn't accidentally add spectinomycin to them. These all sound like, bogeyman tales, but when things are going wrong, you need your safety nets. Yes, once you've got things up and flying, once you've earned your stripes, these aren't necessary, but when you're getting off the ground, trust me, these are your friends. But anyway, now moving forward, once we've crossed this hurdle, it's all about picking clones and getting your positive guy. And when I'm receiving sequencing data on successful clones, every time it makes me think about a scene from, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Not a great film, but it did have a few good scenes. And it always makes me think of these little guys, when these little robots are busy fixing the shields, and they're under fire, and time is of the essence, and before you know it, wow, one of the droids is gone. Oh no, that's okay, one of my clones has a mutation. And then suddenly, wow, another guy gets hit down. And only at the last possible second, R2-D2 saves the ship. If you haven't seen Phantom Menace, yeah, just Google this scene on YouTube. But anyway, point is, casualties will occur. It's disheartening, but it's something that you have to be able to deal with and be able to troubleshoot. And so here's another scenario where things can get weird, and it's something that has stung me more than once. So failing at the last step, once your R2-D2 and so forth are fixing your shields, but here is your fantasy plasmid. And yes, for illustration purposes, the gene that you really care about, like so very, very much, you can't get enough. And the reason I gave it this long name is for illustration purposes. And yeah, I cloned it with BAM and NOT, because I'm a creature of habit. And yes, in a fantasy world, I would love to receive that whole open reading frame. And most of the time you do. But once in a while, you'll see something strange like this. The very, very start here, gene, the J, and then the G of enough. What on earth? You should be thinking, how on earth can this even happen? And it's actually down to, you think, okay, I've already gel extracted this. How can this little weirdo dare to darken my door and spoil my day. And okay, the following bit is theoretical, but it makes sense. And once again, it, those two scary words, kinetically favorable, rear their ugly little head. Because in amongst all your lovely PCR products, you're perfect in every way, you might get, here's your PCR product, bam, blah, 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 the gene you so care very much about. But because not one is palindromic, and this is theoretical, primers can sometimes make primer dimers or get cozy. And since not is palindromic, technically those primers can tail-to-tail interact. And so you have a strange fusion between the forward primer and the reverse primer, generating this the g, and it sticks on back to front on the end of one of your PCR products. And this guy, unfortunately, because the size difference is teeny weeny, it would still be gel extracted in your precious gel extraction that was meant to save your day. Uh-oh. So, if and when you see this, because it can be down to the primers. Normally, I'm not one to blame primers, but this can happen. Then, okay, what do? Some of the smarter kids in the class are already thinking what the solution is, which is, yes, you already have the gel extraction between PCR and digestion, but, and this, it isn't mandatory, and I usually don't do this unless things start getting bonkers. In fact, usually, if I've been stung at the sequencing thing by these freaky weirdos, then I go back and take my already cut product here, and then I run it down a DNA gel and gel extract it again. And in these gels, I never actually see the little weirdos. But once I've done this other gel extraction, carry it forward to the ligation and do every other step, suddenly there ain't no more little weirdos at the party. Suddenly, everything is as it should be. The only thing you have to worry about are errors in PCR, basically. But hey, that's, if the blurb is to be believed, that's a very minor thing. But anyway, I hope I haven't put you off attempting old school cloning, but these are some of the pitfalls and how to deal with them. And I know it definitely actually wasn't Albert Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. So, hey, take that to heart, kids, is basically add a gel extraction or two to get yourself out of potential pickles. Do not think, oh golly, my clones are coming out weird, I'm just going to do the thing over again, or I got no colonies. Same thing. You have to rejig, you have to troubleshoot, you have to go back and solve the problem. Hey, it's life, what can you say? Now, also, a word from our sponsor, me, is that if you have been enjoying my videos, or if you're just viewing my videos for the first time, if you really would like to treat me, your host, then you could buy me a coffee at this fabulous link, and there's Purple Monkey enjoying a beverage. But hey, whether or not, I'm just happy you guys are hopefully sharing and spreading the good word and learning a bit about cloning. Either way, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.